Overgrowth is gonna be host to the first map of this best of 3, and it is the quarter-final stage of Go for SC2 Monday. Spawning down to the lower left-hand position as the pink Terran player. He represents Max Flow. It is souL. And his opponent, to the top right, the blue Zerg representing Team Acer, we have Bly. So, looks like these two have got a little bit of banter going on. They could very well have played yesterday in Go for SC2 Sunday. I know Bly came second yesterday, but I can't remember actually who beat him. Oh, that was it. Littlebo was the person who took him down yesterday. So, this is going to be pretty interesting. I love it when there's a bit of banter before the game starts. It makes me get my pitchfork ready for the drama. Just for one of them just to get a little bit beyond the friendly, just like, oh yeah, we're chatting because we play a lot, and then someone to actually get mad and just go a little bit psycho. Not completely psycho, not like Murderous Rampage level, just like throws down like proxy battle cruisers or something. That kind of crazy. I like that. Anyway, Hatch first coming down from Bly, so he's not going to be the one doing anything crazy, nor is souL for the moment, who's just getting down a gas and a barracks. That means most likely it's going to be a Reaper expand. He'll probably get 2 of them. He'll then likely follow that up with some Hellions, maybe a Banshee. Maybe he'll do that hideous build that is now a thing, where they get 2 Reapers out. They get 4 Hellions. Meanwhile, while they're producing the Hellions, they make an armory, and then the Terran player laughs as they morph Hellbats in and just waltz on by, being like, oh la 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 la, you're dead. God, I hate that build. Hellbats were the bane of my life in the Heart of the Swarm beta. When they had still just... The biggest thing with them, right, was not that they morphed with only the armory like they do again now. That wasn't too much of a problem. The problem, right, was the fact that their damage was still the same as what it is with Blue Flame now, which is crazy, but without Blue Flame. But also you could fit 4 of them in a medevac. Do you remember those times? I remember. They were horrid. 4 Hellbats in a medevac. You had a group of roaches, just a nice little bit of micro. 4 Hellbats around them, they can't move, they get killed by the splash. It wasn't fun. Anyway, enough about those bad times of the past, and more about the times of now. We've got that Reaper coming in, but Bly, he is prepared to catch it with some Zerglings. But the Reaper, he is a smart Reaper. Doesn't decide to jump up the wall where the Zerglings are likely waiting, and instead just chases 2 around the natural base. Kills one of them, the second one also getting a little bit damaged. But Bly, staying on top of things. Gonna need to do a little bit of drone micro here, make sure it doesn't die, becomes an extractor just in time. Queen pops out, and that should force back this Reaper. Behind this, we've got the factory coming down, we've got the second Reaper coming in for souL as well. So he's continuing on with all of this fun. And it's just gonna be waiting a little bit more. Keeps on running. Keeps on waiting. Patience is a virtue and all that. Meanwhile, Reactor, factory, all on its way. So he's going to be following this up with those Hellions just as expected. But goes for a super early 3rd CC. Whoa, that is early. Super quick 3rd CC though. That can work out pretty nice for you. If you're getting the map control and the map pressions coming in from these Reapers, from the Hellions, the Zerg player has to be sitting back defending. And that means they cannot, under any circumstances, punish this 3rd CC. And that makes you very happy. Also keeping the map control and the pressure means that their own 3rd hatchery tends to end up being rather late. Bly checking around. He's actually going to skirt some of these Zerglings through, and the Reaper will not have seen it. This is going to be a bit of a pain. Luckily though, there are Hellions back at home. Should be able to shut down just 4 Zerglings coming across the map. But it does, however, mean that Bly is going to get the scout. As he hasn't yet started this 3rd, but does have 2 gases running, he may get very aggressive in response to seeing this, knowing that he's already behind in the timing of his own 3rd base compared to the 3rd of souL. He may just opt for the killing blow. 9 more drones have just been made, but lava should be popping shortly. Behind this, souL adds in that armory, ready to produce some of those Hellbats from the Hellions, morph them across, and get all up into the scary times. Bly, speed on its way, adding in that third hatch, but it's only just been started, and already the Hellions and the 2 Reapers, sorry, and the 1 Reaper coming across. The second Reaper, where is it hiding? Okay, catching up now. He's just a bit slow. Needs to be careful though. There's 3 queens there. Reaper, what are you doing? He dies. That's what you get. Idiocy by units in StarCraft 2 is rewarded with nothing but the cold embrace of death. Double Evos now coming down from Bly. He's adding in his lair, but just droning. Rather than going aggressive, he's just opting for the out-expand, out-macro stage, but with Hellbats now morphing, these queens are looking a little bit vulnerable. 4 of them on the field, but Hellions, Reapers, Hellbats chasing them all down, and this third hatch is still taking a little bit of a beating. Hellbats, of course, quite a bit slower than that of Hellions, so not as mobile. The queens on creep can kite them to some extent, and that forces them to back away for the moment, morphing back into Hellions, and they may just go for a little bit more running about. Baning Nest coming down from Bly. Meanwhile, souL just continues on, trying to get a bit of damage onto these Hellions, using the Reaper to tank up some of that damage, thanks to the fact that obviously that's got combat drugs, heals up nice and fast. +1 upgrades coming through now from Bly. Meanwhile, the double engineering base coming in now for souL, ready for that switch into a more infantry-based composition. Hellions now coming through. They find a couple of drones, but Lings attempting to surround the Hellions. There's not enough to completely surround those, so they all manage to get away. All of the Zerglings did unfortunately there die, but it was worth the attempt. I think, no, the Reaper did survive. I take that back. It's chilling in the middle. Meanwhile, Bly continuing to pump a lot more drones, making them quicker than souL can kill them. But souL floating over his 3rd command center now. He's ready to ramp up that production, ready to ramp up that income. Just having to contend with the rather annoying fact that there's an Overlord gooping up his main base with creep spread. We now have a grand total of 6 queens on the field. Bly heavily investing in those in order to deal with these Hellbats, just pushing them back, forcing them away. It's going to get a kill on one of them. Nicely done there. Everything still looking pretty patient. Spire on its way in as well, so Bly will be going up into the Mutalisk style play. And going into the Mutalisks is pretty darn smart. The reason being is that with a lot of Hellbats, with a lot of Marauders coming out that have been seen by the Overlord, there isn't much in the way of anti-air. Very few Marines are on the field, only 9 in total. Factor in the fact that you've gooped up the main, delayed the timing of these medevacs by quite a chunk, and you're actually looking quite happy. But in an interesting turn of events, we've got a double factory production getting started up by our Terran. Is he going to be committing much more heavily into the Hellbat count, or is he going to be going for some tanks / Widow Mines? Well, considering the fact he's added in a reactor onto this factory again, there goes the Widow Mines, so this is quite cool. But going up to 3 factories is quite a big commitment to Widow Mine production. So I'm going to be very curious to see exactly what happens. Bailings though rolling in, they're going to try and get some big detonations on the SCV lines. A couple of hits coming through, but not the greatest trade. Only 3 SCVs have died in total so far this game, and that was for about 6 Banelings there. So not the sort of trade that Bly would have been looking for ideally. Medevacs discover that there was, as always, an Overlord hiding up on that little Overlord shelf, chilling out, but with Overlord speed completed, manages to escape away. Double Hellbat drops gonna now be coming through, looking to get some of that damage done, whereas Hellbat production continues now from these factories. We do have double Tech Lab factories here, ready for tanks most likely, but there isn't actually any tanks in position as of yet, so need to wait and see if any will get produced, but for the moment those are wasted production cycles over on souL's side. Bly, he's secured up a 4th base, already mining from it, and attempting to take those 4th and 5th gases, but his double drop will get intercepted. Bly going to be able to clean this up relatively easily, but not until a fair amount of damage is done. 7 worker kills being achieved. Medevacs unfortunately will fall, but this is opening up the left-hand side of the map for the majority of the Terran infantry to march on in. There's a lot of Zerg here though, and with the Bailings crashing on through, we've got Bly looking to shut this down as well, with relative ease, able to force souL back, and Bly, overall, if we look at the resources lost, only coming out slightly worse. But as a Zerg player, you'd expect to see probably a bit worse than that actually, by this stage in the game. Bly, looking good. He's having to contend with that kind of endless stream of Terran reinforcements marching and rolling across the map. But Bly, if we look at his composition, his Mutaflock getting quite sizable, already up to 12 of them on the field. He's also looking alright in terms of stuff on the ground. Quite a few Banelings, the 4th base up and running. But where he is lacking slightly is in the upgrade front. He's at 2-1 at the moment, his only upgrades. And compare that over to souL, who's already sitting at 1-1 with +2 mech attack and 2-2 infantry nearly completed. And that's actually a fair advantage for souL. It's going to be quite tough for Bly. He needs to really crush this force as it moves forward. Needs to try and find a way to obliterate it, to prevent it getting a foothold, specifically these tanks. Bly sees it coming as it marches on, pulls all of his Mutalisks across. Engagement could come down at any moment. In come the Banelings, in come the Zerglings. They're gonna get the connections, but not enough. Mutas also coming through now. We've got still Bly trying to wait for the right position, but this is a very narrow corridor to try and engage up in. Banelings still rolling forward, but they take some big hits. We've got the Mutalisks attempting to chip away at the Banelings and Hellbats. Banelings keep rolling forward. The Marauders all gone now. Only one actually at the front in order to soak up those Baneling hits. The Mutalisks starting to die off as well. More Banelings rolling through. 20 in production. The tanks a little exposed. They get taken down efficiently by the Mutas. The rest of the Marines attempting to run away, but the Medevacs giving up on that mission. Takes them all down, but there are reinforcements coming through from souL. souL really pushing up here. Gonna be trying to find a way to get up and in, using this narrow corridor to the best of his ability. And with a Thor now in the composition, those Mutas will have to be more careful. But it's the Banelings that are going for the big damage. Obliterate some Marines down to the lower left. The tanks get taken out. The Thor dies. The Medevacs all fall as well. And Bly in a very good spot as it stands. He's sitting at 73 drones. He's got a nice composition. And his upgrades, while behind, are still kind of sticking relatively level. The +3 infantry attack is soon to complete for souL. And once that does finish, he's actually going to be sitting with a big lead yet again. Mech attack. I take all that back. +3 infantry on its way though as well. The Mutalisks though, looking to get a little bit of damage done in the main mineral line. Will pick apart a fair few SCVs, taking souL down to just 53, having lost 21 already this game. Pulling all the Marines back as well in order to try and deal with this. The Mutas getting a lot of harassment damage down. And note the Overseer with them, just in case there was any Widow Mines are hiding. Another Hellbat drop coming down to the 4th base of Bly. Going to be relatively successful, able to rack up a handful more drone kills and drop Bly below the 70 drone mark for the first time in quite a while. But Bly, he's got a 5th base on its way. He's really ramping up his income, trying to stay at least 1 base up on his opponent, but quickly moving to 2. With the Mutas, yet again, vying for space to come and attack. They find the 3rd. It's undefended. There was a single missile turret there. With good repairs up on the Orbiter Command, it won't fall. But the Mutas were able to yet again achieve a good number of SCV kills, taking the total count Bly has taken out to 30. 5th base is now done as well for Bly, and souL really has got to be careful with what he does over the next couple of minutes. At only 139 supply, he's not in the strongest position to be moving out as of yet. But if he sits back and defends too long, Bly is able to take all of these expansions, get up a very sizable force, finish things such as his hive, and go into that ultra late game position. Bly commanding somewhat dominance of this map. It's going to be tough for souL, who starts to move through the middle, trying to clear this creep that is being spread very well by Bly at the moment, already reaching towards the 3rd base of his opponent. Up comes this mech force, but a counterattack or flank prepared by Bly. His Mutas coming in, going to try and pick up any reinforcements that may try and trickle through. Meanwhile, the main Terran force gets surrounded by Banelings. The Mutalisks from behind take some big shots from those 2 Thors, and they are going to have to back on out, but not many of them. 20 still remain on the field, but quite a lot of them unfortunately died there. In total, 18 Mutas have been lost this game. Without much on the ground, just a handful of Banelings waiting to go in. Bly does need to be careful, forces a big pickup on all those medevacs and just chases them down, looking to get any damage he can. Quick drop on the low ground, utilizing that terrain to the best of his advantage. souL will prevent the majority of his army from dying, and he goes in for another round of assaults. Doesn't yet know, actually no he does now, scans, sees the 5th base, moves over towards that. Denying that 5th expansion is going to be important, but unfortunately for our Terran, he hasn't yet taken his own 3rd, and he's actually floating down his main base in order to try and get that. 5th of Bly is taking some damage, but Banelings from the side get some good detonations. One of the 2 Thors will die, more Banelings rolling in. The tank on the ground gets taken down, another one trying to reinforce, but these Mutalisks doing a fantastic job. Able to clear them out, able to start clearing out some of these medevacs, getting some good damage done to it. The Thor lands onto the ground, gets hit by a couple of Banelings, and will explode. Bly cleans up this push yet again. Losing a lot of resources in the process though. 20,000 lost by souL, 27,000 lost by Bly. And Bly also could not hold his 5th base there. That hurts his income a little. Able to block up the 4th base of souL though, who's floated down his main orbital command in order to take that. So this adds another little bump in the delay. Factoring in that souL is pretty much mined out of his natural and very strapped for mineral income at the moment. This is all nice things for Bly, who's attempting to go up into that Ultralisk Baneling Muta style composition. The concern for Bly will be the Mutalisk flock though. He's only got 4 of them on the field for now. And that means that most of the pressure is going to be on the Ultras and Banelings, because with all of the gas being tied up there, no more Mutalisk production is really going to be on the cards. The 4th of Bly taking some damage, but the Banelings looking to get a good angle to come in. The longer Bly waits, the bigger this army gets as reinforcements come rushing across the map for souL. The Terran player now encamped to this corridor to the left, and the Ultras need to try and find a good way to engage into it. They'll soak up some of the tank fire, allowing the Banelings to get more forward. Bly temporarily pulling back, wants to get those connections. A couple of lackluster hits don't really do too much, but the tank luckily will fall. But with the Marines tearing apart those Ultralisks, Bly needs to be very cautious with how he plays these next couple of minutes. Because souL, he takes out the 4th base, levels out the base count, but more importantly, because he's taken this 4th, he's probably got a higher income, even though he's down slightly overall in terms of the worker count. And indeed souL, with those mules getting a massive mineral lead, still pushing through. Gotta be careful not to overextend though, as Lings stream in from the side with the aid of the Ultra, shut down that push. All in all though, very nice play from souL. Taking out the 4th, taking out the 5th, really cripples the Zerg's economy and puts him on a bit more of a level footing, especially with that 4th base. Really upping the income for souL at the moment, giving him the minerals he needs to really mass produce units and keep up this great aggressive posture. Waiting to see now where these Ultras come into play. Not too many of them, but interestingly we do still have the Greater Spire. So Broodlords certainly could be on the cards. We've also got a little Zergling run by towards the 3rd base of souL. Without many units here in order to defend, a fair number of SCVs likely to pay for their lives with this lack of defense. Still not that much though, only a 10 worker deficit currently for souL. And with the 4th base, with those mules, he's going to be catching that up at a pretty steady rate actually. Drop tries to come in towards the reattempt at the 4th base. Won't be able to take it though. Gets denied. Nice little fungal growth from those infestors. But only 2 Marines die. The medevac and the remainder of the force is able to escape back to freedom, back to the safety of the edge of creep. Ready to be reunited with the rest of their battalion as it moves up towards the top left hand base. This 4th, a critical piece for Bly. Should it fall again, it could certainly lead to being lights out. He doesn't have any other income, no 5th. His natural mined out, his 3rd pretty much mined out. It's getting tense for the Zerg. These infestors, these Ultras, they have to trade oh so well. But souL, just utilizing this map to his advantage impeccably. Quick little takedown now, or attempted a takedown of this top left hand base, and Bly knows that he isn't in a position to try and contend with this. The Broodlords are the important unit. They're not yet done though. Going to be taking about another 20 seconds. And while that doesn't sound like much, in a game like this, it seems like an eternity to Bly. souL moving backwards, retreating away, knowing that the success and the damage has been done. Coming over to check this right-hand base, will discover that, as expected, it's being retaken. And this will draw all of souL's army across the map to try and deal with it. But this means going over creep. This means revealing his position to Bly, who's repositioning the Broodlords, looking for a good angle to try and get that damage through. Starts shelling the Broodlings into the Terran force. Fungal will hit its mark with more Broodlings coming through. souL rushes forward. He wants to try and get a good trade, but the Broodlords in a very safe position for the moment. There's one Viking, but with the Infestors, with those Ultralisks, it's not going to be able to do too much. The Broodlord's not taking any damage until now, but those Marines pushing on in. souL trying to find any damage that he can for the moment, but the Infestors dealing a good bit of work. The Broodlord's being transfused up, trying to stay alive as long as possible. The Infestors all out of energy though, no more Fungals. The Broodlords really got their work cut out, working through all of the Marines, preventing any more anti-air coming through into this mix. But the Broodlord count only at 4 now. There's a lot of army here for souL, and it's continuing on with that pressure. The Infestors diving underneath the Broodlords. This is not looking that amazing yet for Bly. souL, he's crushing through, takes out the 3rd, damaging the 5th. If that 5th base goes down, it's probably it for Bly. He'll be on 2 bases, he'll have no income. Really, the Broodlords are the only things still standing, buying him any amount of time. But with a good number of Vikings being produced, it's going to be exceptionally difficult for Bly to do anything here. He knows it, GG is called, and souL will take game number 1 of this best of 3.